Yeah, no.
Hey, Northstar. I'm not Jeff. This is not a slanket. I decided that the Slanket Sermon is Jeff's thing, and I don't want to take it from him. I really want that to be his thing, and as much as I may want to take it from him, I'm going to let him have that. And so we're just going to look at a passage of Scripture together here briefly, and hopefully even without a slanket, the Spirit may still be able to move. Thanks for being patient with us this morning. We were back and forth on what call to make, and it's one of those calls that really no matter what you do, it's kind of almost always seems like it's either right or it's wrong. And so hopefully you're enjoying this morning at home. It is cold, and I think the snow is supposed to pick back up here in a little bit. So just again, thank you for being patient with us as we try to figure out what to do about services this morning. A couple of things I just want to make you aware of before we get into this passage of scripture. Is that we do have a member meeting this evening, and it's still on for right now. So if you're a covenant member, we plan to see you this evening. We will keep tabs on the weather and see what is going on, and we'll let you know via text, email, social media about what we're going to decide to do about that. But for right now, it is still on. Secondly, today was going to be a day where you could turn in donations for our Easter extravaganza, which is our community-wide Easter egg hunt. It's a huge outreach opportunity that we do each year. And so if you were planning to turn some candy in for those donations, please bring them March 19th, next Sunday. This is the last Sunday to be able to turn in donations. So it's all the more important that you would bring your donations next Sunday, March 19th. And March 19th, we will be going back to 2 services at 9 and 11. So that's really what we've got as far as things that we want to keep in front of you. And so we're going to look at a passage of scripture briefly here together this morning in Psalm 139. So if you want to go ahead and turn there. Normally in church, there's a rustle of pages when we say to turn to a certain passage. So I'm just going to kind of imagine that in my head is happening right now. It's a very familiar psalm. Some of you, when I asked you to turn there, probably just were like, "Oh, I've got that memorized. I don't need to." It's a beautiful, poetic psalm, and many people have committed it to memory. We're going to look at only just a couple of verses here, 13 through 15. And so if you read along with me, I'm going to start in verse 13. For you, David speaking to God, says, "Formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth." Now, I did a little devotional on this passage with our staff this week, and I've been thinking about it fairly deeply over the past couple of weeks. I decided to do a little study on this section of Psalm 139, and specifically a word study on a specific word within this passage. And don't worry, I'm not going to nerd out on you too much. But something that was uncovered through that word study I thought was really significant and really important as we consider a question that really has been something that's plagued humanity for centuries. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be human? What are we here for? Even Christians at times will ask that question. Purpose in life, meaning in life is something that at times it seems to escape us. We just don't know exactly what it is that we're supposed to do or what it is that we're made for. And I think that there's something here within these couple of verses in Psalm 139 that will give us a clue, a hint even, as to our purpose in life and what it means really to be human. So in verse 15 specifically, when we read that my frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. And the depths of the earth there are obviously a metaphor for the dark, unseen womb where human beings are formed. But the phrase intricately woven is very interesting. And I studied this word a little bit. And in Hebrew, this word is fairly rare within the Old Testament. It occurs here in Psalms 139 and really only in one other section of the Old Testament, which in the Old Testament, when you see words being used and being used sparingly, often there's some significance attached to that. There's a variety of words that they can choose from, and so choosing these words in order to make some sort of connection can reveal to us something fairly important, something fairly interesting. This word, though, for intricately woven, may be translated as knit together in your translation, or something similar. But it has the idea of someone that is embroidering something, sewing it together, knitting it together, is a way a master craftsman would do it. This is what this idea of intricately woven means. And what's interesting is that the only other section in the Old Testament that this is used is in Exodus. Exodus, some of the chapters in the 20s and in the 30s, in that section of Exodus. And the only place that it's used is in regard, when God is giving commands to Moses, is in regard to the building and assembling of the tabernacle. So this was the place where God was going to come down and dwell with his people. And so in that section where God is giving the instructions for the tabernacle and this place where God was going to dwell, giving instructions for the priests and what they were to wear, their priestly vestments and all these things that they were supposed to put on and wear in service of God. That is the only other place in the Old Testament where this word for intricately woven or embroidered is used. So what do we do with that? Well, I know what I do with it, and maybe this is something that might speak to you as well. The idea of being intricately woven and then designed for a purpose, I think, is significant, especially when we see it in the passages in Exodus. Because in the passages in Exodus, this word is being used in order to discuss the creation or the making of something that was intended to be a dwelling place for God. The tabernacle was intended to be a dwelling place for God. And so, when we see this word being used here, and then used again in Psalm 139, David is not talking about a building anymore. He's not talking about a tabernacle. It's the same word, but he's talking about humans. He's talking about people. He's talking about what it means to be human. And so this connection here between Exodus and Psalm 139, I think is interesting, even just illustratively for us, as we consider what it means to be human. And as God was giving these commands to Moses about how his dwelling place was to be knit together and crafted, I have to wonder and think if in God's mind he wasn't thinking or considering what it was that he truly wanted humanity to be, a dwelling place for him. You know, as we read in Genesis 1, the original idea of creation is that God would dwell with his people, not in a building, not in a place they had to go, but that he would be with them, in them, through them. And obviously through sin, we see that this has been perverted and twisted. But now, through Jesus, in Jesus, we have the ability to again be united with God and begin to understand what it truly means to be the image bearer of God in this broken world. And so as we consider what it means to be human, there's many competing answers to that question. People will tell you need to find riches, productivity, you need to be the best at this, or you need to just live life to its fullest. When I think that when we consider what God created us for, it's for relationship with him, period. Now, at times, even as Christians, we can sort of think of our humanity as being separate or split from our relationship with God. Maybe it's because of our flesh or anything like that, but really we have to start thinking about humanity as it was originally intended to be. A dwelling place for God, a place, a thing that God wanted to dwell with and be with. You were designed, frankly, for relationship with God. Your humanity was designed for relationship with God. When he created you, he said it was very good. So let's not take something that God said was very good and try to pretend as if it's not very good. So what does it mean to be human? Well, it means to have relationship with your Creator. That's all it is. This is what you were intricately woven for. in order to be a place, as it says in Ezekiel 36, where the Spirit of God would dwell, so that you might be connected to the life of God. So that's what I wanted to encourage you with this morning as we think about what it means to be human as someone who is a Christian or someone who is not a Christian. Really, the ultimate purpose of humanity is to have relationship with God. And so if you want to embrace what it truly means to be human, well, you have to embrace a relationship with God. And in that, you will find what it truly means to be human. St. Augustine said, "You've made us for ourselves, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you." That's what I've got for you this morning. I hope it's encouragement to you, and I hope that you take some time to just meditate on what it means to be intricately woven, made for the purpose of relationship with God. We're super thankful for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this non-Slanket sermon. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We will potentially see you at member meeting this evening. You can still give online your tithes and offerings for our members and regular attenders. I'll put the slide up on the screen here now so that you can see how to do that. So you can go ahead and give as you would normally. And we just receive that and do that as an expression of worship to God. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoy this snow day. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.